How you going, everybody? So welcome back to NZ Mopo Outlaw Customs. Now, on this video, which I'm hopefully going to try and keep short-ish, for this little video, this is more of a how-to and a bit of a tip I learned. Now, these here are the clamps for actually holding this while it's down the convertible top. For this car that's behind me, this 25 Studebaker. Now I had to make these by hand. These are, a whole lot of this will come out of 100 steel. And I've been building these for a while. And I raw finished them quite a few months ago, and then we carried on with other stuff. But now we're at the point where we've got to get these plated and nickeled. Now my only dilemma was, and I wasn't sure how I was going to fix the problem or work around the problem, was these here, if you have a hole in it like that, that slot in it, to put this through, it does fit in there. I've actually got to narrow this up a little bit to leave it wide, but in this video I'm going to show you what I did, because once I got that in there, because this here is going to be wide in this gap, so it can be clipped onto this piece, here like that. As you can see, there's no bar in the centre there. It's like it comes around and hooks into here, so at least it can be taken off there if it needs to be. But my problem was, if there was no top, if the top was up and this was just sitting there like that, if this ever happened to flick up, or even when the top was down, if this ever happened to flick up, it's got this dirty great window in there. That's likely, it could fall off on the ground when you're driving along the road, and you may never notice until you get, 1 mile down the road, or you could be 100 miles down the road, and you would never find that piece again, and you'd have to remake it. So I was contemplating maybe heating it up and bending these over so it would close the gap up a little bit and just leave a little slot in there, which I think is probably what they maybe done factory, but because I've only just got pictures of them and a few basic measurements for another car that's not even in the same country. But I had a little tip from somebody the other day, and what it was to get a little strip of aluminium and poke it in between, or poke it in against the this wire, and then weld the gap up, which I've already done on this one. I've got some finishing work to do and a little bit more welding, but it's basically all but done. I'll bring you a bit closer in a minute and show you, but yeah, that's what I did, and it worked perfectly. And it wasn't something I really thought about doing. But yeah, basically, and it only has to be thin sheet, it doesn't have to be anything thick. And I just spotted it up, just slowly built it up, and then I started pouring a bit of heat in once I actually got a little bit of extra metal in there. Yeah, and just then poured a bit of heat into there. But it's like, how do you get something like it doesn't even matter if it's something like this, but if you had to make some sort of weird bracket that was very awkward to obviously bend and make something else to go around that, but you want it to stay there, you don't want it to fall out. It's like, how do you close that gap without some other weird means of making everything in two pieces and screwing it and joining it together or whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, a little strip of aluminium in there, make it too wide, and then weld it up. So once I'm just about to narrow this up, I'm going to just reform this a little bit and narrow it up a little bit, because it's wider than this one. When I made it a bit wide. So I'm going to fix that, and then I will show you how I actually did that. Once I got myself sorted out, I'll come back to you and show you what I did. Righty guys, so hopefully you can see me there. I might just drop you down a little bit so it's a little closer in.
too bad. Yeah, hopefully that'll work. As long as I remember to keep you in shot. So, obviously we want to put this here now that I've narrowed it up and whatever. I might just have to clean this up a little bit more in here so I can get this in here a bit easier. Now that I've re-altered everything a little bit. I'll just attack that a little bit with the sander. I'll come back to you and I'll just, in a minute, I'll do a little bit of clearancing since I've altered this a little. Get that back in there, and then I'll show you with this little piece of aluminum what I've sort of got to do to it to get it to sit in there. I'll come back on that, just make sure this fits. Alrighty, so that now fits in there, so that's cool. So just clearance it a little bit with the 2-inch Rolox, just clearance that a little bit and just dress the wire up a little bit. So basically what I want to do is shape a little piece of sheet aluminium like that, but basically, or aluminum, whatever you want to call it. So what I did to do that, roughly, is close my vise up so it was just a small gap, lay that over there, got a screwdriver that I wasn't too panicked about, if you know what I mean, but, and then just hammered it down into there to help form that shape. Now I'm going to trim this excess off and pre-fit it into here, basically. This is pretty much what I did the other day. This is just a slightly revised edition. But yeah, it's just going to be enough to cover the wire and not allow the weld from either your MIG or your TIG or whatever you end up using or that you have available to not weld it, basically. I'm using MIG, but mainly because that's what I've got here. The MIG welding can do TIG, but I don't have the TIG torch and the attachment, basically. So it leaves me, just have to straighten it out a little bit, and then wire it back in there, and I've just got to get this slip in here, basically. And you want it to go all the way through plus a little bit, just so you don't end up welding on the edge of the wire, and so you can fill in there nicely and not have to worry about it, basically. So that's close. So that's kind of what you're looking for. You know, if you're doing something similar, it doesn't have to be this particular thing, but if you're trying to make something similar and you think, shit, how am I going to hold that in there now without making it several pieces and like bolting it together or something like that, if you know what I mean. At least now you can come along hold that in the vise and put some dabs of weld in there and then slowly build it up, which is what I'm going to do now. Alright, and a little plug for Yes Welder. Absolutely freaking amazing helmets with these like almost clear lenses, you know, they've just got a very slight blue tint to them. Oh my god, are these things so good to use compared with the old conventional style like green lens. It's got such a big window on it, makes it so freaking easy to see, especially if you've got a little extra light around you. Man, it's night and day compared with those old things, you know, from 10, 15 years ago. Now with that clear, or almost clear lens, it's just absolute game changer. Man, it makes welding so much easier, especially if you're a novice and you're not used to you know, doing a lot of welding or something like that, you know. Like I'm still really a beginner. I've had no training, just what I've learned over the years, you know what I mean? Just from doing. But just a nice position there, hopefully so I don't block. But yeah, now I'm just come along and just lay a few tacks and then until I build it up and then grind it off basically. Just gonna be careful you're not, you know, welding onto the aluminium, which is probably what I was doing a bit there. So yeah, just keep going backwards and forwards and laying it on there basically. So I might just give that a quick clean up, then I'll come back to it. But now it's nice and free. You don't have to worry about it sticking to anything. It works so freaking easy. Give us a quick grind with the grinder. And we'll just get another tart up and then we can do the finishing work. And basically you just break that stuff off and when you're doing your finishing work. Well, right on there will be golden. Probably turn it around and do a little bit more on the other side, but basically get the idea. I'll carry on, finish this off, and then I'll bring it back to you when I've got it to this point. You know, I've still got a little bit of finishing work to do on this one too, but you know, I just put it on there to show you, but that's how it's done. Simple as. Right, so that's that piece, you know, all but done now, you know, like all it needs is finished cleaning up and dressing up and getting to the point where we can nickel that now, you know, and fitting it on the car. Like that was really, it's so simple, it's stupid, such a simple trick because you know, I've become, you know, sort of been making things, you know, years ago, and sort of thought, shit, you know, how can I do that? And just one of those things that never dawned on me, you know, poke a little bit of aluminium in there, or obviously something else that's not going to, you know, be an issue, and yeah, just weld it in behind and work perfectly. A little bit of tweaking here and there, and it'll be golden. So yeah, I've got a little bit of tweak these around a little bit because they look like they're a little lopsided, but that's easy fixed. But yeah, it's such a simple little trick, and you know, it was such a good result. You know, like once I've finished dressing it up, and nobody will ever know that's what I did. You know, and it'll be very hard to tell, especially once that, you know, once it's nickel plated and coppered and all those sorts of things, and all dialed up and dressed up. Nobody's going to know any different. So yeah, it was one of those things that was bugging me because I was really worried about them falling off, but I didn't have any other idea on how to, without trying to form that around it, which you could do, but you're going to end up, it's going to be very awkward to poke that rod through and then bend that successfully without, you know, trying to hold that in the vise. And you could, like, you could heat it up and push it through there and whatever else, but that's, you know, if you were using some steel that was really, really awkward, you know, that was hard, really, really hard or something like that, or you weren't bending a shape like that, but you needed to have something inside it that you still needed to rotate without making some weird things up. But yeah, like that's quite a cool way of doing something like that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and hit that bell and all that sort of stuff. And hope you enjoyed that, hope you learned something, because I did yesterday. And I just had to share that, and yeah, end up with a really nice, we'll end up with a really nice result that will work perfectly. And yeah, it's quite a seamless thing, and makes it so much easier to shape that. You can shape that individually, put it in there, you know, 5 minutes of welding and a bit of dressing up, and you're good to go. So yeah, alright guys, thanks for watching.